My brother who slept with my fiancée and got her pregnant right before our wedding, so I exposed them in a way that left everyone speechless. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and until a few months ago I thought my life was heading in the right direction. I was engaged to my girlfriend of 5 years, Tina. I love this woman, man. I thought she was the one, you know? For 5 years everything felt like it was falling into place. But yeah, it all crashed down hard, and now here I am, talking to Reddit because I need to get this off my chest before I lose it completely. Let me tell you about my family real quick because they play a big part in why this whole situation is such a dumpster fire. I've got a younger brother, Adam, and for as long as I can remember, he's been my parents' favorite. It wasn't like typical sibling stuff where maybe one kid gets a little more attention. No, Adam was the golden child. No matter what he did, my parents had his back. Meanwhile, I got blamed for pretty much everything. He breaks a lamp? That's on me because I should have been watching him. He skipped school? Well, I was the one who set a bad example. It was like living in some kind of messed up twilight zone where Adam could never do wrong, and I could never do anything right. The worst part? My parents, Bill and Susan, acted like it was totally normal. Fast forward to a couple of years ago. I managed to get out of that toxic house when I went to college. I paid for everything myself, no help from my parents because of course all their money went to Adam. He, meanwhile, decided after one semester that college wasn't for him and dropped out. I wasn't even surprised when my parents threw him a huge party for following his heart or whatever crap they came up with. While I was grinding away at my part-time job just to keep the lights on in my apartment, they bought him a brand new car so he could explore his passions. But hey, that's just background info. The real story is how Adam, the golden boy, somehow managed to do the one thing I never thought he'd do. He destroyed my life in the span of a few months. So like I said, I was engaged to Tina. We'd been together for 5 years, and honestly, I thought I was finally building something solid. Tina was smart, funny, drop-dead gorgeous. Basically, she was the dream girl. I'd met her through one of Adam's ex-girlfriends at the time, and things clicked between us right away. I should have known there were red flags, though, looking back now. Here's the thing with Adam. He was always sniffing around my life. No matter what I did, he'd somehow find a way to one-up me or weasel into my business. Got a new job? Suddenly, Adam's talking about his exciting business idea. Start dating Tina? Adam's all of a sudden super interested in what I'm doing, asking about Tina constantly. At the time, I thought, okay, maybe he's just happy for me. But now, man, I feel like an idiot for not seeing it. Tina and I had been living together for about a year before I proposed. Nothing big, just a quiet night at home, a nice dinner, and I popped the question. She said yes, and I felt like everything was coming together. We weren't in any rush to get married. We were both working long hours, saving up for the wedding and for a house. Life was busy, but it felt good. For once, I wasn't thinking about all the crap from my family, and I was just happy. But then Tina started acting weird. You know how sometimes things just feel off? She was on her phone more, always texting, and when I asked who it was, she'd say it was a friend from work. She'd go out with her friends more, come home late smelling like booze and some kind of cologne I didn't recognize. But I trusted her. I never in a million years thought she'd cheat. Then one night, she hit me with the news that turned my world upside down. She was pregnant. At first, I didn't think anything of it right. I was actually kind of excited, because we'd talked about having kids before. But then she dropped the bomb. The baby wasn't mine. I was stunned, like completely frozen. My first question was the obvious one. Who's the father? She just broke down crying, couldn't even look me in the eye. She finally whispered, "It's Adam, my younger brother. My freaking brother, man." I think in that moment, my brain just couldn't process what was happening. My fiancée was pregnant, not by some random guy, but by the same brother who had taken everything from me growing up. The same brother who had always been the golden child, the one my parents had chosen over me again and again. I kicked her out right then and there. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't care about her tears. All I could feel was this burning rage inside me, and I knew I couldn't be around her anymore. She tried to apologize, begged me to listen, but what the hell was I supposed to say to that? The woman I was planning to marry had been sleeping with my brother, and now she was carrying his kid. After I got her out of the apartment, I called Adam. I don't even remember what I said, but it wasn't calm, I can tell you that. Adam, of course, tried to play it off like it was some one-time thing. He even had the balls to tell me it didn't mean anything. Bro, didn't mean anything? He knocked up my fiancée, and I'm supposed to believe it was nothing? When I pushed him for more, he got defensive and said, "Maybe if you'd been a better fiancée, she wouldn't have come to me." That was it. That's when I lost it. I drove straight to his place. ready to destroy something. I wasn't thinking straight, wasn't even sure what I was going to do, but I was so blinded by anger I didn't care. And when I got there, guess who was already waiting for me? My parents. Yeah, Adam had called them, probably trying to spin the story so they'd back him up like always, and surprise, surprise, they did. My mom started crying, talking about how family needs to stick together, and my dad just stood there looking at me like I was the problem. Adam, meanwhile, had this smug look on his face, like he knew he was going to get away with it. That's when I snapped. Years of frustration, resentment, anger, all of it came pouring out. I told them all to go to hell. I told my parents that they could have Adam because I didn't want anything to do with them anymore. I told Adam he was dead to me, and I meant it. I drove off after that, not even knowing where I was going. I just needed to get away from all of them. All I knew was that everything I thought I knew about my life had just been blown apart, and I had no idea what I was going to do next. Alright, so after kicking Tina out and basically telling my whole family to screw off, you'd think that would be the end of it, right? Wrong. That was just the start. I thought I could just pack up and move on with my life, but my family wasn't going to let it go that easily. I didn't even have a chance to breathe before they started coming at me from all angles. So the next day, I'm sitting in my apartment trying to figure out what to do. I barely slept, my mind racing, and every time I closed my eyes, I kept replaying that conversation with Tina over and over. The whole I'm pregnant, and it's Adam's thing was like a loop I couldn't escape. It was messing me up bad, man. Anyway, I'm sitting there, staring at my phone, and it starts buzzing like crazy. Guess who? It's my mom. Now I'm not stupid. I know exactly what this call's about, but part of me for some dumb reason thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally see things from my side. Maybe she'd say, "Hey, Adam really screwed up, and we support you." Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. So I pick up the phone, and before I can even say anything, my mom starts in on me. "What are you doing, Jacob? You're tearing the family apart over a mistake." Yeah, she called it a mistake, like Adam accidentally knocked up my fiancé the way you might accidentally spill a drink. She keeps going, telling me how I need to forgive him, how family is the most important thing, and how I'm being selfish for not working it out with them. I can't even believe what I'm hearing at this point. I'm sitting there, phone in hand, staring at the wall while she's talking, and I'm thinking, is this for real? Am I the crazy one here? When she finally stops to take a breath, I cut her off and tell her straight up, "Mom, Adam is dead to me. There's no forgiving this. You can take his side all you want, but I'm done." And then I hung up. It wasn't satisfying, though, like in the movies where people hang up the phone and feel all powerful or whatever. I just felt empty, like no matter what I said, nothing was going to get through to her. That's when things really started to go downhill. I thought, okay, I'll just block their numbers and be done with it. But no, my family wasn't about to let me walk away that easily. The very next day, my mom shows up at my apartment. I didn't even know how she found out where I moved, but there she was, standing outside my door with this look like she's the one who's been wronged. She starts pounding on the door, yelling for me to open up. At this point, I'm sitting on the couch with my head in my hands because I just didn't want to deal with it, but she wouldn't stop. So I finally get up, open the door, and there she is, tears in her eyes, holding a baby picture of me and Adam, like that's going to magically fix everything. "Look at this," she says, shoving the picture in my face. "You two were so close. You can't just throw that away. He's your brother." I swear my patience was hanging by a thread. I told her, "Mom, Adam crossed a line there's no coming back from. He didn't just steal my bike or my video games. He ruined my entire life." But she just kept going, man. "He's sorry," she says, like that's going to fix anything. "He's made a mistake, but you can't just give up on your family like this. You're the one who's supposed to be the bigger person." That's when I lost it. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told her everything I'd been bottling up for years. "You always choose him. No matter what, you always pick Adam. I was never good enough for you, was I? Well, now you can have him because I'm done with both of you." She stood there, frozen, like she didn't expect me to snap like that. I wasn't planning on yelling, but all the years of being second place, of being ignored, it all came spilling out. She started crying, but this time, I wasn't going to play the guilt game. I told her to leave, and when she wouldn't, I grabbed my phone and said, "I'm calling the cops if you don't go." She finally left, but not before telling me, "You're going to regret this. Family is all you've got." "Yeah, okay, Mom, thanks for that." After she left, I thought maybe that would be it, like maybe they'd finally get the hint. But nope. That same day, Adam decides to text me. He's playing it all cool, like nothing happened, saying, "Look, bro, I'm sorry about what happened, but let's not make this a big deal. It's not like I meant for it to go this far. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Not a big deal? Dude knocked up my fiancé, and he's acting like it's some minor screw-up, like he borrowed my shirt without asking. So I blocked him. I didn't even respond. There was nothing left to say. After that, I started getting calls and texts from random family members. Uncles, cousins, people I haven't heard from in years, suddenly wanting to chime in. Hey man, you gotta let this go. Adam's your brother. You'll regret it if you cut him off. Family is family. I mean, are they all brainwashed or something? They kept throwing the same line at me. Family is family. Like that somehow makes what Adam did okay. I ignored all of them. It wasn't until a few days later that I found out Tina and Adam were still seeing each other. How did I find out? Oh, because one of my Kia workers saw them out together and decided to bring it up at work like it was no big deal. I was in the middle of grabbing coffee in the break room, and this guy, Steve, I'll call him that, even though that's not his real name, just walks up and goes, "Hey man, I saw Tina and Adam at the mall the other day. They looked pretty cozy. What's up with that?" I just stared at him. How do you even respond to something like that? I mumbled something about how we broke up, and he kind of gave me this awkward look before backing off. But by that point, the damage was done. I couldn't even focus on work anymore. All I could think about was how Adam was walking around with Tina, like nothing had happened. That's when I realized I couldn't stay here anymore. I couldn't keep working at a place where everyone knew about my screwed-up family drama. I couldn't keep running into people who'd seen Adam and Tina together. It was like a constant reminder of how everything had gone to hell, so I started looking at apartments. I didn't care where, just somewhere far enough away that I wouldn't have to deal with this anymore. And the next step? I'd have to figure out how to make sure my family never bothered me again. Alright, so after the whole blow-up with my family, things got even more screwed up. I wish I could say I was done with all the drama, but you know how it goes. Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, someone shows up with a shovel. A couple of weeks after I started looking for new apartments, I thought things were calming down a little. I hadn't heard from my parents, which was a miracle in itself, and I was starting to get my head straight again. I was focusing on work, keeping my distance from everyone who knew Adam and Tina, and just trying to move on. Then one day, I'm at the gym, minding my own business, working out on the punching bag. Now, I've been using the gym as my main way to blow off steam because, trust me, I had a lot of steam to blow off. I was in the middle of a pretty good workout when I hear someone call my name from behind me. I turn around, and guess who's standing there with that same smug look on his face? Yep, Adam. It's like the guy just doesn't know when to quit. I hadn't spoken to him since that last call, and I had no plans to ever speak to him again. But here he was, standing in my space, like everything was cool. Before I could even say anything, he smirks and says, "Look, man, we need to talk." Talk? Talk about what? There's nothing left to talk about. He knocked up my fiancé. What could possibly be left to say? But instead of walking away, I stood there, fists clenched, waiting for whatever crap he was about to spew. Adam steps closer and starts rambling about how we shouldn't let this come between us and how family is more important than some girl. I swear it took everything in me not to knock him out right there. The way he talked about Tina like she was just some random girl, not the person I was planning to marry. It made my blood boil. Then he says the thing that finally broke me. I mean, bro, it's not like she was really yours anyway, right? That's when I lost it completely. I didn't even think. My body just moved. I swung at him, and my fist connected with his face. The sound was, well, it was satisfying. He stumbled back holding his jaw, and I could see the shock in his eyes. He didn't expect me to actually hit him. But here's the thing, I wasn't done. All the anger, the betrayal, everything that had been building up for months, years even, it all came flooding out. I grabbed him by the shirt and shoved him against the wall. I don't remember what I yelled, but it wasn't anything nice. By this point, people in the gym had started to notice. I could see a couple of them moving toward us, but I didn't care. All I could think about was making sure Adam knew he had crossed the line for the last time. Before I could throw another punch, the gym staff jumped in and pulled us apart. Adam was holding his face, and I could feel the adrenaline pumping through me, like I was ready for round 2. But the staff wasn't having it. They started yelling about, calling the cops. And that's when it hit me. If I kept going, this was going to turn into a legal mess. And honestly, I wasn't in the mood to deal with that on top of everything else. So I backed off. I grabbed my stuff and walked out of the gym without looking back. My heart was still racing, and my mind was all over the place. But I knew if I stayed any longer, I'd do something I'd regret. I got in my car and just sat there for a minute, trying to calm down. That's when my phone started buzzing. I glanced at the screen, and of course, it was Adam calling. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't want to hear anything he had to say. But then, not even 5 minutes later, I get another call. This time, it's from Tina. I wasn't going to answer it. I knew I shouldn't, but my brain was still running on pure adrenaline, and before I realized it, I'd hit the answer button. Tina's voice comes through the line, frantic and pissed. "What the hell, Jacob? You broke his nose. He might need surgery." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The idea that I'm the bad guy here, after everything they did, was just too ridiculous. "Oh, I'm sorry," I said, sarcasm dripping from every word. "Should I send him a get well card? Maybe some flowers?" She didn't like that. Tina started screaming at me, going on about how I was selfish, how I didn't understand how hard this was for her. Can you believe that? She cheated on me, got pregnant by my brother, and I don't understand how hard this is for her? I didn't even let her finish. I hung up and blocked her number. I was done. I should have done it sooner, but there was a part of me that wanted some kind of closure, some apology or explanation or whatever. But I realized then that I wasn't going to get it. Tina and Adam weren't sorry. They were just mad I wasn't playing along with their twisted version of family. Later that night, I got a message from one of my cousins. Turns out word of the fight at the gym had spread pretty fast. People were talking about, and not just within the family, friends, Kio workers, everyone was finding out what had happened. Great, exactly what I needed, more people knowing about my messed up life. My cousin Amy, who's always been on my side, called to check on me. She told me the family was going nuts, saying how I'd overreacted and made things worse. But Amy was one of the few who actually understood. She knew how bad things had gotten between me, Adam, and my parents. She didn't buy into the whole family-first garbage they kept pushing. "You did what you had to do," she said. "Screw them. You deserve better than this." Hearing that helped, but it didn't change the fact that everything was spiraling out of control. My life was becoming this open secret, with people gossiping about me behind my back. I couldn't go anywhere without someone giving me that look. You know, the one where they're dying to ask you about what they heard but don't want to seem nosy. I knew I had to get out of there. I couldn't stay in the same town. Couldn't keep running into people who knew Adam and Tina. It was like a constant reminder of how everything had fallen apart. So I started making serious moves to leave. I didn't care where, just far enough away that I wouldn't have to deal with any of this crap anymore. That's when I decided Seattle might be the best option. My company had an office there, and the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like a good place for a fresh start. I didn't know anyone there, which was exactly what I wanted. No one would know my story, no one would be asking questions, and I could finally get some peace. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew I had to do it. I had to get away from Adam, Tina, my parents, hell, my whole family, and maybe then I could finally start figuring out how to put my life back together. Alright, so after the whole gym fight, getting blasted by Tina, and deciding to move to Seattle, I thought things would finally start calming down. You know, I figured if I just stayed out of their way and focused on getting out of this town, I could start fresh and leave all this behind me. But of course, nothing ever goes that smoothly. My family, Tina, even random people in my life just couldn't let things go. First off, packing up my apartment should have been easy, right? Just box up my stuff, schedule the movers, and get the hell out. But the day after I made my decision to move, my parents showed up at my place again. I guess they heard about my plans from one of my aunts or cousins. No one can keep their mouth shut in my family. And they decided they had to talk some sense into me. I'm sitting on my couch, halfway through packing up my books, when I hear the doorbell ring. I knew right away it was them. I've got that sixth sense now when it comes to my family. Sure enough, I look through the peephole and there they are. My mom has this sad, pleading look on her face, and my dad standing behind her with his usual disapproving frown. I didn't want to open the door, like really didn't want to, but I knew they wouldn't leave until I did. So I open it just a crack, and before I can say anything, my mom bursts out with, "You're really going to do this, Jacob? You're really going to abandon your family?" It took every ounce of self-control not to slam the door in her face. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me because I didn't want them in my space. I leaned against the door and crossed my arms, waiting for whatever guilt trip they were about to hit me with. "You can't just run away from your problems," my mom continued. "Moving across the country isn't going to solve anything. You need to stay and fix things with Adam." Fix things with Adam? How do you even respond to that? It's like they didn't even hear what I said the last time we spoke. "I'm not running away," I told her, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm starting over. I don't need to fix things with Adam. I don't want anything to do with him or Tina or this family." My dad finally spoke up at that point. "This is ridiculous, Jacob. You're being childish. You're throwing away your whole life over a mistake." There it was again. Mistake. Like Adam and Tina just tripped and fell into this situation, and I'm the jerk for being mad about it. I tried to reason with them, but they just kept repeating the same crap over and over about how family is family, and you only get one brother. It was like talking to a brick wall. I finally just gave up and said, "I'm moving, and that's final. You need to leave." My mom started crying at that point, which is her go-to move when she doesn't get what she wants. My dad, though, just glared at me and then dropped this line that really got under my skin. "If you walk away from this, Jacob, don't expect us to come running back when you realize you made a mistake." Me making a mistake? I had to laugh at that, even though it was more out of frustration than anything. "I've made my choice, and if you don't like it, that's your problem," I told him. Then I went back inside, locked the door, and just stood there for a second, listening to my mom's sobs fade as they walked back to their car. I could feel the anger simmering inside me, but at the same time, I was just so damn tired. Tired of fighting with them, tired of the guilt trips, tired of everything. So that was that. They left, and I kept packing, trying to focus on getting out of there as fast as possible. But of course, my family wasn't done messing with me. A few days later, I get this long, dramatic email from my aunt, the one who's always been up in everyone's business. She basically said the same thing my parents had, that I was overreacting, that I needed to be the bigger person and make peace with Adam and Tina. She even had the nerve to say that Tina and Adam were going through a lot right now with the pregnancy and that I should find it in my heart to forgive them. I didn't respond. I couldn't even bring myself to type out a reply because I knew it wouldn't matter. Nothing I said would change their minds. I just deleted the email and kept packing. At this point, I was so close to being done. So close to getting out of there and leaving everything behind. I had a place lined up in Seattle. I had the movers scheduled, and I was counting down the days until I could finally put all this crap behind me. But then the final punch came. The night before the movers were supposed to come, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Tina. I didn't recognize the handwriting at first, but when I opened the envelope and saw her name at the bottom of the letter, I felt this wave of nausea wash over me. The letter was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was so Tina, full of fake apologies and excuses. She went on about how sorry she was, how she never meant to hurt me, and how she hopes one day I can forgive her so we can all move on. She even included an ultrasound picture, like that was supposed to soften the blow. I stared at that picture for a long time, and all I could think was how this should have been our kid, not hers and Adam's. Ours. That was supposed to be our future. But instead, here I was, packing up my life and moving across the country, while she and Adam were probably picking out baby names and pretending like they didn't just blow up my entire world. I crumpled up the letter and threw it in the trash. I couldn't deal with it anymore. The next morning, I packed up the last of my stuff, met the movers, and left that apartment behind for good. On the drive to Seattle, I kept thinking about everything that had happened. Part of me felt like maybe I should have handled things differently. Maybe I should have tried harder to make them see my side. Maybe I should have just walked away from my family sooner. But in the end, none of it mattered. I was starting over. I was leaving behind all the people who had hurt me, and I was ready to move on. Or at least that's what I told myself. Alright, so I made it to Seattle. I had this idea in my head that once I got here, things would magically get better. Like I'd cross the state line and everything would just reset, you know? But surprise, life doesn't work like that. The first few weeks after I moved were honestly kind of rough. Don't get me wrong, it felt good to be away from my family, Adam, Tina, all of it. But it's weird how quiet things got. No one banging on my door, no angry calls, no guilt trip emails. It's like the chaos had been on full blast for so long that when it finally stopped, I didn't know what to do with myself. I found a decent place in Seattle. Nothing fancy, but it's mine, and that's what matters. I spent my first few nights just sitting on the couch, staring at the boxes I hadn't unpacked yet, trying to wrap my head around how fast everything changed. One minute, I'm engaged, about to get married, and the next, I'm halfway across the country, starting from scratch. It's like I didn't even have time to process any of it, and now that I was alone, it all hit me at once. The first real slap in the face happened at work. My company transferred me to the Seattle office, so I didn't have to look for a new job, which was one less headache at least. But the day I walked in, it became real clear that my problems didn't just disappear because I switched cities. On my first day, I was introduced to the team. The usual awkward small talk, you know. Most people were nice, polite, asking where I came from, what I do, all the usual crap. But then, at lunch, I overheard two CO workers whispering. They didn't know I could hear them, and one of them says, "Hey, did you hear about the guy who punched his brother back in the other office? Something about his fiancée or whatever?" My heart sank. I felt that sick feeling creeping in, like someone had just punched me in the gut. Apparently, my reputation had followed me here. The gossip from the old office had made its way across the country, and now people in Seattle knew my story, or at least their version of it. I tried to act like I didn't hear them, but it got to me, man. I thought I was getting a fresh start, but here I was, still stuck in the same mess, except now it was with strangers. It felt like no matter where I went, I couldn't escape what happened. That night, I went home, and, instead of unpacking, I just sat there again, staring at my phone. I hadn't blocked my family's numbers, though I probably should have. Part of me kept waiting for a message or a call, like maybe someone would finally say something that didn't make me feel like crap, but nope, nothing. My phone was silent. And for the first time, I realized how alone I actually was. A few days later, I got an email from Emma, Tina's younger sister. I'd almost forgotten she existed in the middle of all this chaos. Emma had been the only one on Tina's side who actually reached out to me and tried to be understanding. She didn't defend her sister's actions. If anything, she seemed just as disgusted as I was. Her email was short, just a few lines saying she'd heard about the move and she hoped I was doing okay. She also mentioned that Tina and Adam were still together and that Tina's pregnancy was all over her social media. Apparently, they were acting like this was some kind of fairy tale ending, pretending like none of the betrayal and drama had happened. I didn't respond to Emma right away. What was I supposed to say? That it still hurt? That hearing about Tina and Adam playing house made me sick? That every time I thought I was moving on, I'd get pulled right back into the same old mess? Instead, I just stared at her email, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach tighten. It wasn't until the next day that I finally replied. I kept it short, just thanking her for checking in and telling her I was doing okay, even though I wasn't. I didn't want to dive into all my feelings because honestly, what was the point? It's not like talking about it was going to fix anything. But as much as I tried to push it all down, the weight of everything kept creeping back. I'd be sitting at my desk at work, and out of nowhere, I'd catch myself thinking about Adam, about Tina, about how they were probably sitting in some baby store picking out cribs or something, living their best life while I was stuck picking up the pieces of mine. A couple of weeks later, I went out to grab a drink after work, just trying to get out of my head for a bit. I ended up at this small bar a few blocks from my place. It was quiet, not too crowded, just the way I like it. I grabbed a beer, sat down at the bar, and tried to let my mind relax for once. But wouldn't you know it, not even an hour in, some guy sitting next to me strikes up a conversation. He seemed friendly enough at first, and we started chatting about work, life, the usual small talk. Then, out of nowhere, he says, "So, what's your story? Why'd you come to Seattle?" I hesitated. Do I tell him the truth? Do I just make up some crap about wanting a change of scenery? I didn't know what to say, so I took another sip of my beer and just went with the safe answer. Needed a fresh start. But then he kept pressing, asking about where I was from, why I left, all that. It was like he could sense that there was more to the story, and he wasn't going to let it go until I spilled the beans. So I told him. Not the whole thing, but the gist of it. My brother screwed me over. I had to get out. Now I'm here. His eyes got wide, and he just nodded, like he'd heard some kind of wild gossip. "That's rough, man," he said. "But at least you're away from it now, right?" I just nodded and gave a half-hearted smile. Yeah, I was away from it, but was I really? Because no matter how far I ran, the weight of what happened, the betrayal, the anger, it followed me. Every time I tried to move on, there it was, like some shadow I couldn't shake. After that, I finished my drink, paid the tab, and headed home. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened, everything I'd lost. I thought moving to Seattle would fix things. I thought putting distance between me and my family would make it easier to move on. But now, I wasn't so sure. Part of me felt like I'd never really escape what happened, no matter how many miles I put between us. The betrayal would always be there, lurking in the back of my mind, reminding me of everything I'd lost. And maybe that's just the way it's going to be. So yeah, here I am in a new city, new job, new life. But it's hard to shake the feeling that no matter where I go, I'm still stuck carrying the same old baggage. And honestly, I don't know if I'll ever be able to let it go.